Hello everyone, my name is Halvi. In this video, I will be explaining the lore behind the bosses in Fire Emblem New Mystery of the Emblem. Jagen has been a knight of Altea for a very long time. In the first stages of the War of Shadows, he helped Marth escape from Altea to Talus, and then continued to fight alongside Marth throughout the duration of the war, in which Medeus was defeated. After the war, Jagen retired from combat and takes on the role of Marth's tactician and advisor, and he is the one in charge of instructing Clarisse and the other new recruits in Altea's army. Lykke and Roderick are rivals and are both new recruits in Altea's army alongside Clarisse. Lykke's family has served Altea for generations and was forced to enlist in his older brother's place, who took on an illness. Roderick came from a poor family and his mother died when he was young. He enlisted as a knight to help support his younger sisters. Caeda is the princess of Talus. When she was younger, she was near an arena in Norda, where she witnessed Ogma being whipped by his owners as punishment for helping his fellow gladiator Samuel escape. Caeda threw herself over Ogma using her own body as a shield to protect him, and later purchased him from the arena's owner. She appointed him as her personal bodyguard, freeing him from his awful life as a gladiator. She grew very attached to Marth during his 2-year exile in Talus, and fought alongside him in the War of Shadows. After the war, she accompanied Marth back to Altea, and the two became engaged. She then helps Cain with the training of the new recruits of the 7th platoon. Jeorge is a noble from Arcadia who dislikes politics, but remains very loyal to his country. In the War of Shadows, he was captured by Dall, but he managed to escape to a village in Pyrathi, where he awaited Marth's army to come and recruit him. After the war, he aided Arcadia's reconstruction and became Gordon's mentor, and also helped with the 7th platoon's training. Athena is a woman who one day washed up on the shores of a village near Castle Arcadia. The villagers saved her life, and in return she offered to rescue some children that were captured by pirates. Then Marth came in just the right time to also help rescue the children, and then welcomed Athena into his army. After the War of Shadows, she disappeared for some time, but then she reappears to help train the 7th platoon. The unnamed ruffian was hired by Legion to wreak havoc in nearby villages to distract the 7th platoon, while Eremiya's assassins try to assassinate Marth. Ogma was born in Pyrathi, and his father was a noble from Arcadia. Eventually, his parents died and he found work as a gladiator in an arena in Norda. As a gladiator, he helped Samuel escape, but was caught and whipped as punishment by the arena's owner. This is when Caeda steps in to protect and free him. Afterwards, he became Caeda's personal bodyguard and joined Marth's army in the War of Shadows. Then after the war, he continued to protect Talus from bandits, and he helps train the 7th platoon. Draug is a knight of Altea who aided Marth in his escape from Altea to Talus following Grau's invasion. He continued to serve Marth throughout the War of Shadows. He remained a knight after the war and helps train the 7th platoon. Est is the younger sister of Palla and Catria and serves under Minerva's command as a member of the White Wings. She joined Marth's army very late into the War of Shadows, where she fell in love with Eibel, and the two got married and then dream of opening a shop in Altea. Unfortunately, she got captured and taken to Valencia by Grief. Palla and Catria follow but get lost at Zofia Port. They join Celica and make their way to Grief's citadel and save Est. Then the three Pegasus sisters continue to help Celica end the war in Valencia before returning home to Arcadia. Est offers to help train the members of the 7th platoon. Cain is a knight of Altea who was present during King Cornelius' death at the hands of Grau. Cain rushed back to help Marth escape to Talus and continue to serve Marth in the War of Shadows. After the war, Cain spends his time instructing new recruits, which includes the 7th platoon. His training of the 7th platoon involved having them fight against several allies from the war, and he will personally challenge them as a final test of their strength. Lorenz was a general of Grust and an old friend to the King of Talus. He opposed Grust King Ludwig's decision to ally with Dolar, but still fought alongside Camus in the war. However, Caeda was able to convince Lorenz to join the Arcanean alliance and fight back against Grust and Dolar. After the war, Lorenz returned to Grust and placed Prince Yodel on the throne. Hardin appointed Lang as the leader of the occupation forces in Grust, who threatened the safety of not only the prince and princess, but all the people of Grust. Lorenz rebelled against Lang and asked Ogma to seek out help from Wendel in Macedon. Lorenz was able to inform Marth of the situation before ending his own life. Lumel is a member of Macedon's army who assisted in the rebellion against Minerva. After the successful rebellion, he was tasked with defending a fortress at Macedon's border to halt Marth's advance. Lykke is a general of Macedon and the leader of the Macedonian rebellion. He disagreed with Minerva's renovations to the army after the War of Shadows and planned a rebellion which succeeded due to catching Minerva off guard. Hardin ordered Marth to suppress this rebellion. Before Marth could confront Lykke, Michaelis appeared and took Minerva and fled. Gail is the leader of the Macedonian Vikings. He guards the areas that Marth and Ogma must go through to escort the royal siblings Yubelo and Yulia to the location that Wendel was supposed to reside. Torus is a ballistician in charge of guarding Oberon Keep, Lang's base of operations. He is ordered by Lang to prevent Marth from making it inside at all costs. Lang is an Arcanean general and the leader of the Grustian occupation army. He used his position to steal from the people of Grust. He had his men abduct many young women from their homes, and many people died at his hand. When Marth first arrived in Grust, Lang ordered him to kill Lorenz and capture Yubelo and Yulia. Marth eventually decides to turn on Lang and is branded a traitor, which results in Marth's homeland of Altea being invaded. Marth defeats him in Oberon Keep. Dall is the leader of a group of thieves who hide out in the fane of Ramen. He pursues Fina and Navarre as he believes they stole something of his. Yodel is a bishop from Cain who sided with Hardin and Arcaneia. He is ordered by Arlen to guard Cain's temple. Arlen is one of Wendel's disciples, the other being Merrick. At first, Merrick and Arlen had a friendly rivalry, but this changed when Wendel chose to give the Excalibur tome to Merrick due to Arlen's lack of compassion. Arlen became jealous and hated Merrick for this, and when Wendel left Cain to search for the Star Shards, he allied with Hardin and Arcaneia and tried to kill Merrick. Wendel and Marth's army arrived just in time to save Merrick. Wendel talks some sense into Arlen, recruiting him into the army. Legion is one of Eremiya's assassins. He seems to possess the ability to duplicate himself, and he refers to these clones as his brothers. He assisted Katarina in her assassination attempt on Marth, and then watched her closely to assess her performance. After Lang's defeat, one of his clones led an attack on Marth. This clone was killed, but the real Legion was still alive elsewhere. While in Cain, the true Legion and many of his clones attacked Marth again, this time resulting in the real Legion being killed. Afterwards, Eremiya orders Clarisse to kill the remaining clones as they are now useless without the real Legion. The Wyvern guards the Mammerthaw Desert, the Fire Dragon guards the Flame Barrow, and the Ice Dragon guards the Ice Dragon Temple. These dragons were once part of an advanced civilization, but refused to seal their powers into Dragonstones and eventually degenerated into nothing more than wild beasts. Clarisse was born to a noble family, and the bandits known as the Soothsayers raided her home, killing her parents and leaving her as the lone survivor. She lost her memory of the incident and was found by Eremiya, who may have had some involvement in the attack along with Gharnef. Clarisse was then trained to be an assassin alongside Katarina, Legion, and many other children. After the War of Shadows had ended, Clarisse, Katarina, and Legion were assigned a mission to eliminate any remaining members of the Soothsayers, and during this mission, Clarisse happens upon a painting that makes her remember a little bit about her parents. During the War of Heroes, Clarisse was tasked with eliminating any and all allies of Marth that she could find. She first tries to kill Riss, but is thwarted by Marth's army. She then tries to ambush Marth during a blizzard, but is defeated. Katarina takes Clarisse back to their hideout and begs Eremiya to help save her life. Eremiya refused, calling Clarisse useless, and Clarisse dies with Katarina at her side. Eibel is an Arcanaean general who leads a group of soldiers occupying Altea. He forces Eibel to fight for him by holding Est hostage and orders his men to kill Est should Eibel betray him. Willow is an Arcanaean bishop who leads the soldiers occupying the inside of Altea Castle. He plans to open the door to the throne room as soon as a chest is opened, hoping to catch Marth's army by surprise. Katarina, her real name is Reese. She was an orphan from Norda where she was frequently abused until she was found and taken in by Eremiya, who raised her to be an assassin. She was often paired with Clarisse and Legion on missions, including the one where they are assigned to eliminate the remnants of the Soothsayers. Before the War of Heroes, Katarina was assigned a mission to assassinate Marth. To do this, she joined the Altean Knights and was put on the 7th Platoon, where she met Chris, Luke, Roderick, Ryan, and the others. They all trained alongside each other, forming very close bonds. However, at the end of their training, Altea Castle was attacked. Katarina reveals that she was sent to kill Marth and the attack was her doing, and the guards have all been drugged. Her plan fails though, as she is defeated and forced to retreat by her former comrades of the 7th Platoon. Katarina appears many more times, then when Clarisse and Legion are hunting down Marth and his allies. After the deaths of Legion and Clarisse, Katarina is ordered by Eremiya to hunt down and kill Marth, and in the ensuing battle, she is convinced by Chris to stop attacking. She asked Marth to execute her. Marth refuses, telling her that she should live on and figure out on her own for how she should atone for her actions. Sheena is the daughter of King Jewel of Gra, and she disliked her father for allying with Dolar in the War of Shadows. Then, after the war had ended, she rolled over Gra and the people supported her, although she still had to follow Emperor Hardin's orders. Marth came to invade Gra, but he only killed the Arcanaean soldiers, leaving the Gra soldiers alone, as they did not want to fight. Sheena noticed this and joined Marth's army out of respect. Nehring is a general of Arcanaea. He and an army of soldiers were sent out by Hardin to guard the royal palace. Hardin is the younger brother of the king of Aurelis. Hardin helped free many slaves from corrupt nobles, and of these slaves included Roche, Violand, Wolf, and Sedgar. In the very early stages of the War of Shadows, Hardin fought alongside Minerva to defeat bandits who were pillaging some villages in the outskirts of Aurelis, and shortly after that, Camus escorts Princess Nina into Hardin's custody. Hardin leads his forces in a rebellion against the Dolar Empire as it quickly gains control over much of the continent. As he is pushed back into a fortress in the northern parts of Aurelis, Marth arrives just in time to lend a hand and rid Aurelis of Dolar's forces. He then continues to aid Marth in ending the War of Shadows. Then after the war, Hardin married Nina and became Emperor of Arcanaea. He raised a powerful army and all seemed to be going well. Soon though, Hardin learned that Nina did not marry him out of love, but as she needed to fulfill her responsibilities as a member of the Arcanaean royal family. This led to Hardin falling into a deep depression where he shut himself alone in his chambers, away from all others. Then Gharnef appeared, offering Hardin the Dark Sphere, which corrupted Hardin into a tyrant, and he willingly handed Nina over to Gharnef. Hardin instigated the rebellion in Macedon, and sending Marth to Grust was part of his plan to rid Altea of its best knights, making it easier to invade and take over later. He then confronts Marth near the Chasmere Bridge and sends an elite group of soldiers led by Astrum to chase after Marth into Cadine. Hardin is responsible for manipulating Sheena into fighting against Altea. Once inside the royal palace, Marth uses the power of the Light Sphere to fight against Hardin and defeat him. In his dying breath, he is grateful to Marth for freeing him, and he asks for forgiveness for his actions. Eremiya was once a kind bishop who cared for children at an orphanage. During an unknown war, the orphanage was burned down and all of the children were killed. In her grief, she was weak and vulnerable, and Gharnef appeared to cast a spell on her. The spell altered her memory and made her turn evil. She then raised orphans to be assassins. She locked them in dark rooms, stripped them of their free will, and put them through deadly training. She wanted them to be nothing more than puppets that would follow follow her orders completely. Eremiya is the one who ordered all of the assassination attempts on Marth and his allies, and she also helped kidnap Lena and Maria for Gharnef's plan to resurrect Medeus. After Hardin's defeat, Marth discovers her secret orphanage and she is defeated. As she dies, Gharnef restores her former memories and she despairs over what she has done. Gharnef was once a man of justice and good intentions when he and Meloa were students under Goto, but because of Gharnef's lack of compassion, Goto appointed Meloa as the new Pontifex of Cain. This angered Gharnef and he became consumed with jealousy, and as an act of revenge, he stole the Dark Sphere. Gharnef's soul was then sealed within the Dark Sphere and he planned to revive Medeus and ally with him to destroy the entire continent and roll over it. He murdered Meloa and took control of Cain, and then went around to the nations of Grust, Gra, and Macedon and manipulated their rulers into allying with Dolar. Even with all of his planning, though, Gharnef was still defeated by Marth and his physical body was killed. However, his soul still lived on in the Dark Sphere and he was able to begin planning for Medeus' second revival. This new plan involved using noble-born clerics as sacrifices. These clerics were to be Nina, Ellis, Maria, and Lena. Using the Dark Sphere, he was able to corrupt Hardin and easily take Nina. Using Eremiya and her assassins, he was able to capture Maria and Lena, and in the confusion of Hardin's invasion of Altea, Gharnef was able to capture Ellis and steal Falchion. He also had Starlight in his possession, so surely his plans could not fail. Well, near the dragon's table, Michaelis was somehow able to steal Starlight from Gharnef and give it to Marth, giving Marth's army a way to defeat Gharnef and recover Falchion. Medeus was the prince of the Earth Dragons and the only Earth Dragon that was willing to seal his powers into a Dragonstone to avoid degeneration. The rest of the Earth Dragons degenerated and went to war with Naga, but were defeated and sealed away underneath the dragon's table. Naga entrusted Medeus to guard the seal, but after many centuries of watching his fellow Manichetes being persecuted by humans, his hatred for the humans grew, and he united all the Manichetes together and founded the Dolar Empire. He waged a war on the humans and quickly took control over the majority of the continent. Henri went on a journey to obtain Falchion, and with it he defeated Medeus and freed the land from Dolar's control. Due to Earth Dragons possessing tremendous amounts of life energy, Medeus was not killed, and about 100 years later was able to be revived by Gharnef. He waged war on Arcanea once again, this time with the nations of Grust, Gra, and Macedon as his allies. He took control over most of the continent, but Marth was able to lead his army and defeat Medeus, but only after 3 short years. Medeus was being resurrected yet again. This time, Gharnef used the life force from 4 noble clerics in the depths of the dragon's table to resurrect him into his most powerful form, a dark dragon. Marth and his allies were able to rescue the clerics and defeat Medeus for the final time. And that is all I have to say for this video. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.